Hello and welcome to Season 8, Episode 5 of the Euphoria podcast. The title of this episode is called Misfits Managed, but we actually have Candyfloss, who is the head coach of Misfits. This is actually a Harry Potter reference. Mischief Managed is the reference we were going for, and that was a reference to the fact that my co-host here, Caedrel, looks like Harry Potter. #r/shitty podcast details, movie details, whatever the equivalent is. Do you like it when I wing the intro, or do you prefer when I write something ahead of time?
No, this is fine. This is fine. I just didn't expect you to call me Harry Potter in the first sentence.
Well,
I like it how you shake it up every week.
Yeah, well, I thought I did last week too, but you know what? I repeat words on cast. I'll repeat intro jokes here and there.
Yeah.
Until you buy new glasses. But those glasses do actually look very good on you. Just the downside is the Harry Potter.
Yeah, every time I stream, everyone comes in. It's like, oh, it's budget Harry Potter again. Back at it.
I mean, why are you budget? Harry Potter never got
No,
challenged.
Harry Potter is budget, Caedrel. I already tweeted this.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Expelliarmus, mate. Have
to
you
be
seen
fair,
my
it's
recent
budget, but it's a much big. He did have a much bigger budget than I think you have probably had. To be fair,
it's not about the budget. It's about the skill.
He's
set.
like rich in the story, and the movies were expensive to make.
He can make magic, but can he make magic in solo queue?
That's true.
No, he can't.
Also,
1v1 me on the Rift, buddy.
Why?
Just calling out Daniel Radcliffe like that.
All right. Side note: why he was hella rich? Why did he never just hire magic bodyguards? Anyway, that's for our other podcast called Harry Potter.
We got a lot of things to talk about. Now it's Harry Potter and sources. We got a few things to talk about.
We're just gonna have to make an off-topic podcast. The decision was split on sauces. We'll get back to you guys on sauces, depending on maybe that's an end of season episode once we're just like recapping before Worlds. Before we do proper Worlds content. But for now, we'll stay sauce free.
Did you know if you fill a swimming pool up, I think, of mustard, you can walk over it or something?
No, I didn't know that.
Something
but
like that.
The absolute lack of confidence with which you delivered that fun fact.
I remember seeing a video when I was younger about it.
Okay.
I'm sure someone will know it.
Ooh, it's a weird mood today. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. That's where the sauce is. Coming up this week, we've got Candyfloss. He is the head coach of Misfits. He's going to talk to us a little bit about kind of what he is bringing to the team, Misfits on the rise, and what to expect in the weeks to come. Totally excited to have him on the show. He and Caedrel go way back. We're also going to talk a bit about Week 4, because it was a very weird week. But addition to that, we're going to talk about mid-split MVP. They talked about it a bit on broadcast. We're going to assign who we think mid-split MVP is, and we're going to walk through each team and talk about who their MVP for that team specifically is as well. So a lot to cover, but also Week 5 is happening, so we'll talk about Week 5. Wow, really all over the place today. First, this is why I'm all over the place. It's got me shook, folks. And it's not literally shook in this case. It is the surprise rise of Excel. It was a 2-0 week for Excel, and that in itself, with new players coming in, is not completely and totally crazy. But they did take down Vitality and G2, two teams that they are now tied with in a 4-way tie for 5th, which also includes Astralis, and each of them are 4 and 5.
And it's the halfway point,
And it's the halfway point. So, Caedrel.
Yeah.
I struggle to find the words to appropriately describe how I feel. Mostly confused. But I don't want to talk about Astralis. I don't want to talk about Vitality. I don't want to talk about G2 in this moment. I want to talk about Excel. What did you think? Marcoon and Advian coming in. How did you feel about this debut?
I mean, the debut against G2 was great, wasn't it? Marcoon just came in with the biggest balls I've ever seen. Just dives mid twice, takes TP, runs top, gets a kill top after using the TP with Nuke Duck, and then he just played through his win condition. Nuke Duck was on LeBlanc, and he played towards it. And I think that he had a fantastic game against G2. The Vitality game was even, I wouldn't say better in terms of actual macro decisions or like getting the game ahead, but like it was really, really well drafted and planned. And you pick TF into Akali, you play Lee Sin TF really strong mid jungle. It's revealing Akali really hard, I think, for leader of that game to play Akali into like Galio, TF, Lee Sin.
Yep.
And then all across the board, really, really strong draft, I think. Marcoon's Lee Sin was great. His Volibear was better. You guessed it right. It's Marcoon, Mr. Mark Yetter. Need to nerf something soon, Gwen?
Wow.
Okay. I was trying to rhyme there.
Bars. Yeah, you got him. It's also Mark Yetter doesn't work on the team anymore. It's Jeevan now. Riot Jag is the new Mark Yetter.
Oh, really?
We're going to have to adjust our memes.
Damn it. So it's Mr. Jag?
No, so it's Riot Jag. Sindhu, I think is how he pronounced his last name. I do not want to mispronounce his name. Jeevan, you're a homie. I can't believe I don't remember how to pronounce your last name. We'll figure it out. But Jeevan is the new Mark. So that isn't you, Mark.
We'll think about that.
We'll update. We have to update your memes. Update your memes. Mark Yetter works on the MMO now.
Yeah. No, I've been talking a lot about...
I think. Maybe.
The
Wow.
MMO looks pretty pog though. I was talking a lot about.
We haven't seen anything. What do you mean?
Yeah, but the art looks cool, and it's League of Legends MMO. It's
You're gonna
probably
make people
gonna be
think
insane.
we have things to leak. Don't say
Dude,
things. We don't have anything to
play
leak.
it. I can't wait.
Anyway,
to play it.
back on topic because we're clearly weird today.
I just spoke a lot about Markoon, but Advienne also had a great debut.
Sure,
the
absolutely.
Thresh, the Galio looked fantastic. I think that this was a long thing coming for XL when these players were checking all the boxes in terms of what you want from a national player. We've said it before, really high in solo queue, UMass finals, all that. Development is good, young players. I'm sure with the players around them like Patrick and Nuke, these kind of veterans who know what they're doing, really, really reliable carries, they can be a bit crazy.
Absolutely. And I think for XL, probably a little bit sad that this didn't happen sooner. Understand again that they didn't want to jump the gun, but now that they've made it happen, probably realizing this was the start that they should have gone for the entire time. And really, when we look at it, Caedrel, is this, I have to ask you, you're the expert here.
Is this the team that makes playoffs?
Yeah, is this the team that makes, I mean, I'm not trying to roast you. I'm just asking, is this the team that makes playoffs?
Caedrel was the problem.
Were you the problem? You were, well, I mean, you could have been a problem. You were certainly not the only problem, as we've learned.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. We'll leave that topic around the discussion.
All
We got a lot to talk about on different
okay.
podcasts. Let's think here. Are they going to make playoffs? Well, the issue I have with making playoffs is right now, the way I see it personally right now, is Rogue, Misfits, Fnatic, Mad. I think they're pretty much locked into playoffs. Not locked, obviously, statistically, mathematically, whatever. But I think just given the teams, given like Misfits, maybe they fall off a bit, but they have enough wins to supplement that.
As long as they can beat like Schalke and SK, they're basically in. Short of some crazy tiebreakers, right?
They should be all right. Then G2, you can never really doubt G2. They've had a slump. I still think G2 is going to make playoffs. I think G2 is going to bounce back. Really unlucky or like rocky, I would say, a couple of weeks. So we'll say there's 5 teams in playoffs, but there's only 6 that can make it. So now it's literally XL versus Vitality versus Astralis versus Schalke. Now, obviously, I think XL and Vitality stand out the most out of those 4 teams. So I think it's a battle between XL and Vitality. I think this is where we're going to see the last playoff spot. Now, XL has always dueled against teams for the last playoff spot. I can speak from myself. It's always Schalke. It's always Schalke that knocked them out of playoffs. Last year in summer, Schalke Miracle Run knocked us out of playoffs.
What's hilarious is the schedule is perfect for this because XL play Schalke and Vitality in the same week. That's week 7.
Ooh, that's a big week for everyone.
Biggest week.
That is a big week. And Vitality right now, a little bit inconsistent, I have to say. I think a lot of people have been saying that, high highs, low lows in terms of who they're winning against. So if they can find that consistency, I'm sure they can contest and they'll be fine. But in terms of the playoffs race, there's only, to me, 1 spot left. And that's between XL and Vitality.
Yeah. And obviously, it's not, I don't think it is completely that cut and dry in the sense that no one is far enough ahead in the standings that it is possible for, like G2 Esports is their history, pedigree, quality of players. You assume you can give them that they're going to break out this 4-5 tiebreaker spot. I think Misfits and Rogue are easy just because when you're at 7-2 and you've beaten consistently all the bottom teams, like you're going to be able, more likely than not, going to do that again. Now, it is important to note that like the bottom teams are starting to ramp up. SK is kind of the only one still lagging behind. We'll see if that project improves at all. In the meantime, they're kind of just, sadly for them, the league punching bag.
And just for the Vitality point, you have a weekend where you beat, I think it was G2 and Mad, I want to say. Yeah, G2 and Mad. And then you lose the next weekend to Astralis and XL. That's the kind of inconsistency I'm looking at. I mean, obviously there's a lot of context to those games, but just in terms of strength of teams from the outsourced kind of view, yeah, they need to find some more consistency for sure. Certainly
do. And so for XL, I think this week will be a big determining factor in if they can sustain the momentum of bringing in new players. We've seen a lot of honeymoon periods. The Shook effect, the Gilius effect, the Kickus effect. There's so many. Usually it's a jungler. The Caedrel effect. Usually there's a jungler that gets subbed in and then a team goes on like a surge. And then more often than not, that team shortly after crashes and burns. But there's that honeymoon period where things are fresh, things are new. It's the spark is there. It's a brand new romance.
I don't know what the Caedrel effect did, but it did something somewhere in the world.
That, yeah. I don't know why you just add yourself to that list of players.
I love it how you just kept on there.
The Caedrel effect. The Caedrel
I just
effect.
snuck it in there.
Right
and I was
there,
like,
yeah. Plus, how we always. All right, I'm gonna give that one to you. But you're ram jamming your name into a lot of things today. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, now XL played Mad and Fnatic this week, and this is a massive week. And I think the big thing is that outside. XL do not have an easy week ever. Like they never have a week where you look at their opponents and go, wow, that's super free. And I think part of that is because we have an incredibly competitive table right now.
Yeah.
Schalke, while they are the only team are currently in ninth, this massive 4-way tie for fifth is, even if we say Astralis, because obviously I think I remain skeptical about Astralis. I think most of us do. Even if we say Astralis isn't there, like, we're still looking at basically a top 8 that all look pretty solid, right? And I think that to me, and not like there are top 2, Misfits and Rogue, and I think maybe we could put Fnatic up there too, but past those 3, I'm not confident in anybody's ability to 2-0 a week consistently. Like, really, I think that anyone could upset anyone, and it's not that those teams aren't good enough to close out games. It's just that it's been proven, at least so far in the split, that anyone can upset anyone.
And that's the nature of best of one. Best of one, it's just how it goes. You can never really be perfect. No matter who you are in best of ones, you're going to eventually lose a best of one. Doesn't matter who it's against. If it's in the same league, similar caliber of players, you're always going to have that off game or unlucky game, or the game where the enemy team had more innovation or they cheese you, whatever it may be. You always are going to drop a game. But I think for XL, just going back to that, it's a little bit messy here, but just the last point on XL is XL's schedule for the last time, for the history of time that I can remember, every single time in the last Super Week, it's always Rogue, G2, Fnatic, or it's always like Rogue, G2, someone. And so that means to me that they need to pick up wins early.
Yep.
They did beat G2 and Rogue in spring in that Super Week. But I think that if you're looking at XL, look at them picking up the early wins. Whereas if you're looking at Vitality, look at Vitality to pick up the later wins. Because in the later weeks, Vitality play Astralis and Schalke and those kind of teams. So XL need to get off to a good early start, and Vitality can take it a little bit slower, I think, in terms of that 6th place race that I think those two teams are fighting for.
Yeah, and regardless, it's going to be neck and neck. Now, one team that we're kind of giving the benefit of the doubt to, despite being 4-5 currently, is G2 Esports. It was a rough week, ultimately, coming out in this week with an 0-2. And I think the XL game was kind of rough. XL game, I feel like that they look back on that one like, wow, we just played poorly. But the Misfits game especially was the craziest game of the week by far. And I think, despite the fact that G2 lost it, that to me was overall a more positive look for G2 than we've seen in a lot of the previous weeks. That's my take. What do you think?
I mean, they're on a 4-game losing streak now, right? So out of all those 4 losses, that was the game that they should have won and they looked the best in. I think G2 have a lot of problems right now from an outside perspective. I'm sure they are working on those problems internally, and I can't say completely what those problems are, but just from my perspective, I feel like everyone has a different problem going on. For example, Wunder is, I feel like, getting caught out a lot on side lanes for no reason, maybe just kind of over aggression or just communication being dropped off in those points in the game. Jankos, his early game, I think he's been struggling a bit. He's falling a little bit behind. I don't think he's the biggest problem on G2 in terms of individual strength. I think he's playing fine. I just think the early games are a little bit weak, especially against XL, where he pats top, loses Crab, loses Raptors, loses Bots Crab, and now he's a level down already. As an example. And then him pairing up with Mikyx, it looked good in the first few weeks. If you cast your mind back to the first few weeks where they just keep pincering towards mid and ganking for caps, it feels like they were doing that pretty well, which is a G2 classic. But if you look at the last couple of games, especially, the XL game or the Vitality game, it feels like caps is the one being ganked first. We'll use the word ganked in this context, or the one being collapsed on first by the jungle support or being dove first. And G2 are always there to respond rather than be proactively there. If you think of old G2, Mikyx on Blitzcrank just hooking enemy mid laners and helping caps get kills, or even the Mad Lions game where Jankos is playing Xin Zhao, he's always mid first. I feel like G2 are never really mid first, so caps is the one kind of taking the brunt of the strength of the jungle support mid in the early game. And I think that could be because Jankos is falling behind. Mikyx's not really grouping up with Jankos as much. That's a problem to me. Caps, the lane phase could be a lot safer, I have to say, but it's Caps. He's always going to play aggressive. I think that he's still trying to push his leads, but if you look at his actual laning stats, they're good. But if you look at his actual overall stats in terms of damage, I'll use KDA in this context just for as an example. He's dying a lot. And I think the reason he's dying a lot is because they keep playing around mid. And his team's really never there to respond in time in the last few games.
And he has the most deaths of any mid laner in our league right now at 34. The next person in line is Humanoid. And the difference there for me is that Humanoid's had a lot of games where he's kind of stepped up in solo carry, right? Where he's really been the defining factor. Now, you're right. The lane stats are there. He's definitely not doing too bad in CSD on average. But that said, I agree. It feels especially bad. And people brought this up when we talked about Jankos last week and kind of took him out of our top 5 for the jungle tier list. A lot of people were frustrated because it's like, but he's doing a lot for his lanes. And the thing is that's difficult is that despite the fact that Jankos and Mikyx are kind of roaming all the time, we're still not seeing crazy lane dominant performances from the laners that they are in theory freed up to support.
And I think that individual prowess was what was helping them a lot throughout the last few years. I mean, even Yanko said in a stream that they're not getting bad, teams are getting better. And you can see that in the lane stats, just teams like Rogue, Mad Lions, we've seen those last year that they're getting better. So they need to make sure they work as a unit more, but that working as a unit is not really coming together very well. It's not gluing together to me. So then as I just finish going through the list of individual problems that I'm seeing, we'll finish up with the bot lane. Reckless. Now, the point I want to make here with Reckless is when G2 is winning, Reckless is extremely proactive and he wants to look for things and he's actually really aggressive on mid waves and jumping in, So if you look at the last 4 games, for example, in those 4 games, he got a combined total of 3 kills in those 4 games. You look at his wins, 9 kills, 6 kills. Now, looking at kills is never a really good stat to look at, but if you look at the context, Reckless is playing extremely safe in their losses. He's playing to I don't know, he's not playing to...
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. This is a really common thing in a lot of... in any kind of game, right? Where you're playing not to lose as opposed to playing to win.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you get some players who will play to win where they will completely run it down on the outside, but they're actually genuinely trying to do things on the map. Whereas Reckless, I feel like when they're losing, he's waiting for his team to do something and then he'll follow up rather than being the one to go first.
Do you think that that's inherent within the role of marksman, AD carry, whatever you want to call it? Because I would argue, my only counterpoint to that is because I see what you're talking about, right? And I think that I'm inclined to agree, but I was never a pro AD carry. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the logic there is, I am fine if other people on my team want to make crazy plays, but I don't have CC. The best thing I can do is get 3 items so that I'm there when that person makes that crazy play that is a bit of a flip and back that up. Is there room for that logic to apply? Or do you think regardless of that, he still needs to be more willing to kind of do more?
I think the logic applies to the champion you're playing. So, for example, if he's playing Jinx and Jhin, which he was in those 2 games, I think those champions are more reliable hyper carries in a sense. Where Jhin, you can play for the lane, but if the lane falters, then you're more of a follow-up with ultimate, so you need your team to go in first. Jinx, very similar. Jinx is a hyper carry. You want to not make mistakes, essentially. Go even or ahead in your lane, get out of lane, farm up, wait for your team to make plays. Then on the other side, if you play things like Kai'Sa, Tristana, which he was playing, especially when you're pairing it with Leona or Thresh or these engaged supports, you're the ones who have to be proactive. Just look at their drafts, for example. We'll take 2 examples. Mundo, Diana, Lucian, Tristana, Leona. Who's the engage there? Well, Diana can be the engage, but who's the follow-up? It's the Tristana, Leona. So those 2 points of engage you have. So making picks all comes down to Tristana, Leona in a sense. You have to push out mid and look for that play, or actually try to catch someone out and initiate a fight for a pick. You look at their other drafts, Gwen, Lee Sin, Sylas, Kai'Sa, Leona. Similar kind of thing. Yes, Lee Sin can find the picks, but Leona can also do that as well, and Kai'Sa can be a good follow-up. So I don't want to put too much flack on Reckless, say oh, he's playing for KDA or whatever, but you can just see a very specific trend where in their losses, he's playing safe to the point where he wants to be a reliable source for his team, but being that reliable source doesn't make up for the fact that they're losing the game already. So I would love to see some more proactivity in general, in terms of just trying to find things. Now, obviously, it's a very hard thing to do to just find a pick or find a kill.
Sure.
But at least trying, or dying for it, or even just trying to set up crazy bush flanks, whatever it is. There's lots of context.
Rather try something and fail than play passively.
Yeah, and I think finalizing here with Mikyx. I think Mikyx's been playing pretty good. Barring that one Pantheon game that he had against Fnatic, even in that game with the pick that people were like, wow, he's a bad pick, he was getting his team really far ahead. He's really sending it a lot to try and get his team ahead. He's been making mistakes here and there, but I think Mikyx has been probably the most consistent player on G2 in my eyes.
Well, and then let's talk about that, because our next topic of conversation, because as much as G2 have been struggling, the big thing that we want to talk about today is mid-split MVPs. Now, we can talk overall about who the great candidates are, but to break this up and give us an opportunity to talk about each of the teams, even some of the ones that we haven't hit yet, we wanted to assign one player from each team that we feel is their MVP for the first half. So the most valuable player on that team, and then from there, at the end, we'll decide who is the most valuable player in the context of the league.
And just to finish off on this G2 point, I think that there's a lot of easy things for them to fix. I think if there's any team that's going to bounce back, it will definitely be G2. Because
certainly.
They've shown it before, slumps happen, and I think that they're going to come together and they're probably going to make playoffs. They're probably going to be the classic G2 in best of fives. They're going to be a different beast.
Well,
and yeah, I definitely don't doubt them at this point, but just looking across the board holistically, that's my my point of view from the outside.
And I think that that's totally valid. And again, I think that if ultimately all of these things are fixed, it will not change the fact that they were a problem in week 4, or that they were a problem in week 3. You know what I mean? Just because I believe in G2 to be successful doesn't mean that they're not struggling right now. And I think not in a way that has been historically, where it's like, ha ha ha, best of 1, let's mess around. They really look lost. And I think that is every right to call that out, right? This is not the G2
these that was happy little losses anymore.
Yeah, this is not the G2 that was untouchable because they won everything and they kept winning everything. We are now in a world where G2 did not win the last split. And so while they still get a ton of the benefit of the doubt, they don't get everything. They don't just get to run it or have bad games or make big throws without people asking
And you
questions.
can see it in their faces, you know. They're really disappointed in these losses on the player cams afterwards.
Yeah.
So they are taking these games pretty hard, I think. Especially a 4-game losing streak. It must be, yeah.
It's tough. That said, with the 4-5 scoreline, we do need to talk about who the most valuable player on G2 is. Now, I'm inclined, especially given that we just ran through each of the players, I think it's probably Mikyx as Mr. Consistent. I think that there's probably other arguments. I don't know. What do you feel, Caedrel? I'm leaning towards Mickey.
Yeah, I've looked at all the bad things for these players. Now I want to look at the good things, you know, just really quick hits. Wunder, fantastic lane phase. I think he's been doing really well in lane, especially in the early game. Jankos, in terms of team fights and making sure that he's at the right place at the right time most of the time. I think he's been doing really well. He's been dropping the ball a lot around neutral objectives, though, I think, especially Heralds when they're cross-mapping. Caps, again, lane phase. Reckless, Mr. Consistent, lane phase. It's all kind of lane phase for G2 in the early stages, which is going pretty well for them. It's really hard to pick a MVP on G2 right now, but I would lean to... It's hard to say. I would lean... towards Mickey, I guess. Reckless has been playing good at the start of the split, you know, but he's been slowing down a bit.
I think the thing is it's really easy to pick an MVP when a team is winning a lot, right? Because then it's like a cornucopia. It's like who did the best thing. When a team is in the middle of the pack, I think it's much harder because more often than not, no one player is playing perfect, right? Like League of Legends is a team game, and always, when we try to judge a player in isolation or credit a player in isolation, I think that it's not a perfect science.
Yeah, and I think in isolation, there's a lot of arguments for each of these players on G2 to be the mid-split MVP for that team, you know, whether it's consistency, strong lane phases, good team fighting. Overall, I would agree. I guess I would say, Mickey. I think that there's not much of a gap between players like, you know, Jankos and Reckless, who I think are definitely up there. But I think the people who are struggling the most definitely Wunder and Caps. So yeah, I would agree with Mickey. I
like Mickey. I think ultimately for these middle of the pack teams, it's not. They haven't shown us the most that they have to show us, right? And so it's not like when we talk about mid-split MVP overall, I think that to me that really means something, whereas these like little mid-split team MVPs is more just an indication of who to watch on the team rather than like concise one player answer as to like the only player that matters or the only player that's making a difference, because I just don't think that that's unfair to the teams. That said, why don't we shift over to one that we'll just do Excel now too, because we talked about Excel earlier. We can hit that one, and then we can go to some of the teams we haven't talked about yet. Excel, I think it's hard to say because it's been 1 week with Markoon and Advian. It wouldn't surprise me if at the end of the split we were talking about them as the MVPs for Excel, as the two players who've come in. Always very easy to be like, wow, this player's the MVP when they literally weren't there and the team was doing bad, and then they show up and the team starts doing better. But who do you on Excel stands out as like as a rock, as the form of consistency, as the strongest player on this lineup right now?
Would have to be Nuke Duck, I'd say. The jungle support got swapped out. Markoon and Advian could be pop-off players. You know, they probably might be carrying XL or making that change that XL needed to get them to playoffs. Patrick, he's got a new support now. He didn't look too comfortable in the game, so I won't say Patrick just yet. I don't doubt his abilities. And then Cries as well. A little bit of hiccups in lane phase, just in terms of like dying to ganks here and there, or, you know, not having as much impact as another player on the team, which is Nuke Duck. I think Nuke Duck's the one who's driving XL. Even in their wins last weekend on the TF on the LeBlanc, he was like the biggest piece of the puzzle for me that kind of came things together. Even like Markoon was like, it feels like Markoon was that early game piece that Nuke Duck was missing to help his lane phase, and then he was the one who kind of was just unlocked on the map. Even the Azir plays, every win it feels like Nuke Duck's the one to look at.
And I think that's a really solid point, because the Azir games at the start of the season, even when a lot of other stuff was going wrong, the reason Excel was able to pick up any wins at all was because of, I think, Nuke Duck on that Azir, those big moments. And I agree. I think Patrick's another name that we'll have to look at, kind of, but it's hard to do so in isolation again because he plays a duo lane, right? And so I think Nuke Duck is, to me, the clear standout. And the fact that he did get to pop off on LeBlanc, like, I'm excited. I am one to jump too soon onto the narrative train. I'm not going to tell you it's year of the duck.
It's a decade of the duck.
But what I will say is this, is that the last time that Patrick and Nuke Duck were really good, they lost to G2 in the finals. You know what I mean? Like, but they made it there.
But they made it there, right?
That duo carry worked really well for Origin. Now, admittedly, there was also an EUphoria on that team. You know what I mean? So there's a piece of that missing. But I will say that those two, when they perform, are top level players in their respective roles. Now, I won't tell you that they're like number 2, but I think Nuke Duck's always been looked at as a top 3 mid laner when he's really performing. I don't know if he's there yet, but that road he's gone down that road before, and I would say that I'm very optimistic for Excel right now. which is not something, you know me. I'm a doubter generally. The
You're
whole
a Debbie
never,
doubter.
yeah, the whole never making playoffs thing has burned a lot of bridges.
Just
for me.
set in stone now.
It's hope, maybe not. Maybe this is a split where it's not. Maybe on the back of a man like Nukeduck, Hopium, or I think it's maybe more Copium than Hopium at this point.
I hope they do it. I genuinely hope they do it, because just to break the curse, just to take that pressure off, so you're never known as. Because if you think of XL, they're just labeled as this team that has never made playoffs. Once you can break that label, that's great. I'll never be able to break it, unfortunately, unless I come back to pro play one day.
Bro, it's fine. It's
But
good.
it's funny.
Having something to roast you about is good. It makes you more personable in your otherwise very successful life. People want you got to get dragged back down to earth with the rest of us humans. There, Mr. Ladder Climber.
Okay.
Astralis, let's go there next. So I wrote little like blurbs for each of these players on a document, just so I could like collect my thoughts to make sure that I could keep up with Mr. Lamont here. But for Astralis, I wrote question mark. I'm kind of leaning towards Jeskla, just because his like numbers are good, but ultimately every Astralis early game is a disaster. It's just then they win by team fights. So it's like, already it's hard to pick a single player.
There's three people standing out to me. There's
okay, all right.
White Knight, Zanzaro, Jeskla. White Knight's standing out because of his Lee Sin performances.
Actually, you know what? That's a really damn good point.
His Lee Sin is really good.
White Knight is very good at Lee Sin.
Apart from his Lee Sin performances, they weren't fantastic, I must say. There was that one Renekton game, but yeah, it's all Lee Sin. If you look at White Knight, his Renekton was fine. His Lee Sin was his standout pick, obviously. So White Knight, I'm leaning towards right now. If I wasn't leaning towards White Knight, Zanzara, really good early games. Getting the plays happening. I won't say really good, because Astralis, like you said, their early games are weak, but he's playing things like Trundle Volibear to bridge them in an early game.
Yeah.
And if you look at their Vitality game, he was a really big factor in that. And then Jeskla, I'm looking at for like the damage numbers. Now, damage doesn't really need context. When you're looking at a player with 32% of his team's damage, you know that he's playing things like, Ezreal, Kai'Sa, Karthus. He's pumping out damage. Yes, they can be inflated with poke champions.
No. But the thing is that
yeah.
damage per minute is going to be inflated by poke champions. The damage per minute is the like, while it is champion dependent, that's kind of the like Upset likes to flex that stat, and Upset's a big. If you guys don't know, Upset really likes stats. Like he likes to know. Like when people like to try to talk,
DPM,
when people like to talk trash to Upset brings numbers. You know what I mean? Like this man brings the evidence when he wants to fight you about whether or not you think he's good or not, and I respect that. But damage share just shows more than anything your role within the team, because G2 are a team that's always had no one's ever had an impressive damage share because everyone is doing damage. You know what I mean? But in the case of Jeskla, like he is clearly the guy that this team relies on to deal damage in fights.
Regardless, I would say White Knight.
I think you're right. Because I lean toward Jeskla because the damage numbers were big, and I thought a lot about the team fighting context, and I think I lost sight of the just incredible amount of Lee Sin plays alone that White Knight has made this season too.
Even in their losses.
He looks
great on Lee Sin. Even in their losses.
The clean kicks knocking people into the back line, keeping fights alive, keeping games alive when they should otherwise be ruined. And again, we're waiting and hoping to see more of that on other champions, but I think White Knight is certainly the choice for Astralis.
Is he a one-hit wonder with the Lee Sin? We'll find out when people start banning it against him. But for now, as long as it's open, Astralis, they're going to keep milking those wins.
I mean, why not? You know what I mean? If Astralis gets to... I will be stunned if Astralis gets to playoff. I will be so incredibly impressed, because this, to me... I wrote them off the second they didn't make roster changes and last split looked abysmal. But they're 4-5 now. They're already way better than they were last season. And that is something.
It's the White Knight effect. The Lee Sin effect.
The White Knight effect, baby. Let's go. All right, Caedrel, where do you want to go next? The world is your oyster.
Let's go to another Lee Sin performance standout and top lane carry to me. I think Schalke. The immediate standout to me in Schalke is Broken Blade.
I mean, how am I going to argue, bro? He's cracked.
Yeah,
he's
I don't think I need to say anything in terms of that. I mean, you just need to watch their games. Broken Blade is their main win condition in terms of not so much draft, but in their wins. If you look at their wins against Fnatic, Schalke and G2, it's literally all Broken Blade. The G2 one stands out the most.
The G2 one was literally actually all Broken Blade.
Okay, the G2 one was all Broken Blade. I don't want to say it was all Broken Blade, because I think Nuclear Int had a great game on TF against Fnatic when Niski was playing Akali and they had the TF to reveal him. Nuclear Int definitely man of the match there. But consistent factor in their wins, on top of consistent factor in their losses, Broken Blade is the one that stands out to me. QA, very rough split so far. Nuclear Int had that one great game on TF so far, so we need to show us more. He has good Rise performances, but his lane phase has always been pretty weak. Neon and Limit have been dying a lot 2v2 here.
They've been kind of quiet. It's been a quiet season.
Yeah, so,
they tried to go back to the Senna 1 or 2 games, which I hated in spring, and I do not like anymore now.
Yeah, so to me, it's broken blade, consistent in losses, consistent in wins. Seems to be that rock that Schalke needs.
And I think while Kira is struggling, and that takes him out of the running for MVP on the Schalke lineup, it also just further strengthens the solo laner's performance. You know, when they're able to do so much. And don't get me wrong, in the game where he absolutely obliterated Wonder, like, Kira was coming top, Kira was backing him up, but he built the initial advantages alone, and that's one of those things that, like, you really want players to do when you highlight a player on a team, because so much of League of Legends is absolutely a team game, and yes, there's matchup things to consider, Nocturne versus Set, but when players can, in a vacuum, build an advantage on their own without any greater macro, without any greater team play, like, that shit's worth a lot. Like, that's why we like the Shy so much, you know, and players like the Shy, players like Rookie back in, you know, the IG powerhouse days.
Yeah.
OIG. That's a separate topic for another time. OIG.
Is the world still my oyster?
The world, you honestly, bro, you take me where you want to take me.
Okay, the next one that stands out to me is a clear-cut one is Mad.
You want to go Mad?
I want to go crazy.
Okay, so we went to the bar for some football, and now you're taking me out to some fine dining. We got the it's just gonna there's like
fine dining.
It's not fine dining. It's
I'm
not
taking
fast
you to
food.
Madrid.
Taking me to Madrid. Oof. I prefer Barcelona. Sorry, Madrid people.
Okay.
I prefer Barcelona.
I prefer Alicante. The real Spanish people know that.
Oh my god.
Because it's a bit smaller, but
Alicante.
that's where I grew up. Alicante.
I know. Oh my god. All right.
Close to Valencia. Yeah.
All right. Fine.
Good times.
Alicante.
Anyway, we're going to Madrid. Mad Lions.
Go see Guernica.
I think the one. Okay.
That's where I cast my first final. Much love Madrid. Anyway,
Really?
Mad Lions. Yeah, it was super pog. I love the Spanish fans were incredible.
Now he's a player who grieves a lot, but he grieves for the good intention of winning the game for his team. And it's okay. The game that stands out to most people in their minds is the Rogue game where he TPs and he comes in, wins a fight for them, gets them, and was it an Elder Dragon or something? And then he TP'd in and died, and they lost Baron.
You mean this last game? This game that literally happened last weekend.
It was Humanoid.
That was
Humanoid. To me, has been the stand-up performer so far. I think he's been having probably one of the better splits he's ever had in a regular season.
Yeah.
I mean, also attributed slightly to the meta, where Akali is now all of a sudden meta, where it wasn't last split. You know, Ryze is meta, where it really kind of wasn't last split. And he can play things like Lee Sin and Zoe and Orianna. So he's a bit more well-rounded in terms of what the meta provides, instead of just playing Orianna every game.
Yeah.
And just scaling for his team. You can see the impact he has on the games, on playmaking champions. And although the Rogue game, you know, he did that mistake with the TP, they were losing that game, and he almost did clutch for the team. The Ryze game in the loss against Vitality, he was literally carrying his whole team in a sense across the finish line. He has had a few hiccup games, yeah, for sure, but he's a player who I look to in Mad Lions to be like that person who's going to try his hardest to win in the game. I think Armwood's been having a shaky split. Elyoya has been decent here and there, I think. Definitely showing signs of last split. And Kaiser. Well, I think Kaiser is definitely in the running for this. Karzi is, the only real good game he had was that last game.
I think he's had great moments. I think the thing is that we've seen the duality of Karzi rear its head a lot this season, and that's going to be always the thing when we talk about most valuable player. A lot of the times, what we look at is consistency, and Humanoid, of course, isn't super consistent, right? But when he is doing well, he's doing so incredibly well that it balances out.
I don't know. Is it Humanoid or Kaiser? Now I'm doubting myself. They're both. Oh, sorry, I just smacked my microphone. They're both really good.
I think it's really hard. It's actually very hard.
Now I think about it, Kaiser's been playing really good.
Kaiser is really consistent.
Kaiser's really good.
Kaiser's really consistent.
Kaiser's really, really good.
Kaiser's really consistent.
Yeah, he's really good.
Are we being blinded by all the flashy Akali Humanoid plays?
Maybe a little bit.
I mean, it's just so much sexier than what supports get to do.
He's the one with like the DPM, you know, the pop-off
Yeah,
fights.
I mean, support, we don't have, to be clear, like, when it comes to stats, there are just not very many good stats for supports. It's really hard to track support's contribution.
Yeah, I'm giving it to Kaiser. I made a decision.
You're an executive decider?
Yeah.
All right, I think it's between those two. Now, again, if you guys think we're absolutely griefing on any of these, feel free to call us out on Twitter or otherwise, because this is one where it's really hard. Most every other one I've been like, easy. Even the White Knight one, which I didn't initially thought. When you brought me out those Lee Sin things, that was easy. This one is very hard. I think it could go Kaiser. It could go Humanoid. Yeah.
Damn.
All right, I get to guide us. So you wanted...
No, your turn.
We went to the bar.
It's like a game of tennis.
Yeah, and now we're up to some mid-tier dining. You know, it's like a chain restaurant, but it's like a solid chain restaurant. That's where Mad Lions are at.
Are we having a dessert?
No, we're going to a different kind of restaurant now. Now we're going to just go get just the sloppiest kebab you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, I love kebabs, don't get me wrong, but this right here, it's like $1.50, right? They don't tell you what the meat is, and that's concerning. Because normally they're like, do you want the chicken or do you want like the lamb, the cow, whatever? They don't tell you what it is, and you don't see the meat, but it looks fine.
Okay.
But you're concerned.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about SK. Who is our concerned? Never mind, that metaphor isn't going to work the way I wanted to.
Man.
We're out for our shady kebab. It's going to be great. We've been drinking. You know, this is like the perfect food to end a night. I would love to tell you that they're a 5-course meal. I would love to say that they've got their Michelin star. They do not. They absolutely do not. It's still a hot goddamn mess.
Okay, SK.
I think this one's pretty easy. I think this one's.
I don't think it is. You know.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna challenge you on this one. I don't think it is.
Okay, so I said treats.
I knew it. I said Gen X.
Gen X does have very good stats, and we're a sucker for the stats.
Now, look at the stats. You can look at them yourself, but...
Game of Legends, by the way, is a great resource if you guys haven't used it otherwise. Leaguepedia is the other big one we use. Shout out to River, shout out to Game of Legends.
The thing that surprises me about his stats now, giving some context to them, you're on a team that's 1-8.
Yeah, that would be the one.
You're losing every single game. Now, I'm just going to throw some numbers out there. He's up 18 CS on average at 15. Which is surprising to me when you're playing top lane especially, which is mostly like the role after mid that probably takes the most brunt of the game, because what basically happens is your bot lane's losing, they swap top, they take Herald, now all of a sudden you can't lane and you have to go bot, or you have to lane 1v2. So that's a big reason why I should be top lane to
He's also yet to play the same champion twice.
Okay, another great point, right? So he's at a good champion pool.
Which is just cool. It doesn't really mean anything, it's just cool.
That's cool, yeah. Now, he doesn't have the highest numbers in terms of like kill participation and getting the team ahead, but in terms of like, I think there's a discussion here of Treats is actually trying to help SK win the game by making things happen in this new jungle role, and he's definitely struggling because his lanes, apart from top arguably, are pretty weak.
But let's be clear, it's Treats or Gen X, right?
Yeah,
it's those two.
And then there's Gen X who's just like kind of sitting on his island, doesn't get much jungle attention, but then still has these crazy CS numbers, which if you look at them and you have no context, you'd think it's a player in like a middle pack / top tier team.
Probably top, honestly. Yeah, it's really hard to build those up if you're not getting a lot of attention. So
massive props to Gen X for having those stats. And if you look at the game, you can see it. He is on island, and it is never really much of a top diff in the games that SK lose. It's just kind of him farming. Then all of a sudden the map falls apart from one team fight, and he's just stuck on his side lane the whole game while he watches the enemy team in the game. So yeah, I would say Gen X or Tweets. Pick your poison. Playmaking, trying to win the game, you know. Actually trying to juggle these lanes. Or Gen X who's just kind of sitting there. My team's losing, and I'm getting swapped on a lot, but I'm still up in CS, so suck on that, you know?
Yeah, I still think I'm leaning towards, it's actually hard. When you've only won one game, I mean, what is it, any of it?
I made the executive decision on the Mad one, so I'll allow you to make the executive decision on the SK one.
I mean, this is the problem, right? Is they just haven't won enough for me to be like, yeah, Gen X, you win lane, but your team's not winning games.
True.
You know what I mean? If they'd won like 3 or 4 games, and
win lane, lose game.
And then I'd be like, okay, well then I feel either better or worse. Like I'd have a clearer picture of like who is really carrying and who's really stepping up in these games. So I'm inclined to give it to Gen X just because he's got good numbers in an otherwise struggling team. Now he does get to play a lot of unique champions. He gets set up with a lot of unique lane matchups, and that is obviously a big strength. But
now I will say, just follow up, he doesn't do much with those numbers. Maybe there's a world where you could expect him to do more because he's winning 2 top and then have carry performances. But they've only won 1 game, so. And in that game, I wouldn't attribute it all to him, in a sense. I think that it was just...
I take it back. It has to be Treats. It has to be Treats because Treats is doing well in a new role in his first split, in a role that he doesn't really actually want to play for that much time. So normally I don't want to take in all those out-of-game factors, but in this case, to break the tie, I'm giving it to Treats because laning advantages are super, super great. If it's not enough to win the game or not enough to gild greater advantages for the team, not as important, but still, credit to Gen X. Gen X is absolutely second on this list. He deserves credit for being a solid player. But
who's another candidate? 2 hours.
2 hours is a good candidate. You're right.
He's not in the league anymore, so he can't use it. But he had a pretty good.
Yeah, those first 2 games from 2 hours were really good. Shout out to 2 hours. I hope you find a slot on a team sometime.
Yeah.
We'll give it to Treats. Yeah. Gen X close second. Again, let us know if you think that we're totally off here. All right, we had the.
How many we got left?
We had the shady kebab, guys. It was shady. It was from a cart. You know. I don't even know. I haven't seen a kebab cart in my life in Berlin.
Are we getting? I like honey. Do you want to get some honey?
You want to get honey?
We can go get some honey.
From the bees?
From the bees.
Go get the gift shop honey?
Yeah, as a souvenir.
Yeah, I like it. If we get stung in the process, it feels very on brand.
Oh, we might get stung.
All right. It's time to talk about vitality. By the way, if you're like, these guys are the worst at metaphors, we are. I hope you're enjoying it anyway. This is like the biggest mixed bag, not clear metaphor ever.
Metaphor murderers, that's us.
The bees, the honey, the sweetness. They're slowly dying. Save the bees, by the way. Actual vitality, though, is tied in 5th in that horrific mess of the middle of the pack. It's a beautiful mess, actually. It's like a train wreck that you can't look away from.
It's a beautiful disaster.
Beautiful, beautiful disaster, you know.
Okay. MVPs. 2 people that stand out for me right away are obviously Selfmade Leader. I think Crownshot and Labrov have been playing their lanes amazingly the last few weeks.
Labrov has had some super great games.
SLT is definitely out of, for me, SLT is not in this running for...
yeah, he's been a role player. I think he's been solid, but yeah. I don't think it's been crazy.
In their losses, he doesn't look great, I must say. Things like the Renekton and the GP didn't really have the impact that perhaps you'd want from a top laner, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. For me, it's between Labrov, Leader, Selfmade. And I really don't know which one to choose.
It's really hard because it's also, again, if you haven't, we're quoting stats a lot today, but it's the stats day. Just bear with us. Again, vitality and wins, the stats are disgusting. And that's not a big deal. When teams are winning, their stats are better. Usually. It's like, of course, when you're winning, you're getting more kills. But when they're losing, their stats are into the ground. It's like the biggest split between winning and losing of any team in the LEC right now, which is, again, that's what makes it significant. Not the vitality are doing so well in wins and they're doing worse in losses. Every team does better in wins and worse in losses.
The funny thing is, this is a team that beat SK in 22 minutes and lost to Astralis in 23 minutes. So it's like, dude, where do you begin, man? Like, honestly.
It's like the inside of you there are 2 wolves meme.
Yeah.
The leader who carries and the leader who runs it down.
Well, even in that loss, I think he was like, against Astralis, he solo killed him, took 2 towers in the first 15 minutes. So Leader is...
It's really hard. There's actually so many players who have really incredible individual moments because this team is so much about individual players finding individual moments. You know what I mean? Crownshot Labrov 2v2 kill bot lane was nasty.
Diving Mad Lions bot lane again, playing better than the G2 bot lane in the lane phase as well in terms of swapping. And
the Rise game from Leader.
Absolutely
insane. Selfmade's had some really solid early games.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, this is one where I don't know. It's mid jungle support.
I feel like as a professional, we need to make a decision, but as someone who doesn't want to make this decision, I just want to ask Phil, our producer. But I don't think that's acceptable. Phil, who would you vote for in Vitality? You have choosing between Leader, Selfmade, and Labrov.
Okay.
He says Leader.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, who stands out to you the most? We'll have like a little unanimous thing.
Okay. I feel bad because I feel like Labrov does not get enough attention and praise for how good he's playing, but I still don't think he's the MVP. So I'm also going to say Leader. I think it's still Leader.
Okay, Leader.
I mean, democracy says your vote doesn't matter.
Okay, well,
no, not that, and I shouldn't say that. Voting is always important.
Okay. Well, Leader wins. Leader is the MVP.
Are you voting for Leader?
Well, there's no point.
No, you have to vote.
No, I'm not going to say.
You have to vote.
My mouth is closed
No,
now.
because then when the thread comes out and people are like, you absolutely should have picked X, you're just going to be like, of course I was going to pick X. If I just didn't get outvoted by Phil and Drakos. Who is it? It's hard. It's really hard. Like, actually, there's so many. It's really difficult.
Yeah, it's Selfmade or Leader to me. I think Labrov's been playing really, really good though. But
Crownshot has also been playing solid. Don't get me wrong; they're both really good. But I think that, I think it's Leader.
Moving on to the next team. Who do we have? Who do we have as the next team? Let's do another tough one. Should we do another tough one? So we've had our honey. Okay. Now I'm gonna take you back to my office in London. In London, bruv.
I guess it's the only other British team, technically. So Fnatic.
In my BMW.
In your BMW. Ooh, united in rivalry, baby.
Yeah,
Let's
united
go.
in rivalry.
That's a great hashtag, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it's always I meme it all the time, but I'm saying it, which means it's obviously very effective. Shout out to BMW. Good hashtag.
Yeah. Fnatic. Where to start? I think Hylissang's been playing great.
Blippo role swapped and is doing quite well.
Going pretty well. Adams popping off.
Well.
Nisqi's like the silent carrier in a sense, apart from the Akali game.
Probably knows his stats better than I know his stats, but his stats are very good.
Stats are probably up there. Phil.
We can't. Phil just can't bail us out every time.
Okay, I'm gonna send it.
We get one Phil per list.
I'm gonna send it. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
I'm sending it. Ready? Hylissang.
I feel like it's an easy out. I feel like it's an easy out. That's what I'll say.
No, it's not an easy out.
I feel like it's an easy out.
This Tarek. Okay, Upset in the comms. Upset was the one who said Tarek, so props to Upset. Tarek performance was great. His Braum engages are nuts. His Pyke was also really fun to watch. He had a couple of shaky games at the start of the split, but
those Braum games where he just never died were crazy. Because normally we got mad at Fnatic. If you remember back like 2 years ago, they used to pick Hilly Braum, and it was always crap compared to the Pykes and whatever other roaming support he could play. And we were always sad because not only did he die more on Braum, he did less. But now he's doing more on Braum and dying less on Braum and still making it look like a Hylissang champion. Like Hylissang, whew, good split.
The thing is, Hylissang is playing really good, but then of course that lane phase is fantastic. You know, Upset and Hylissang. Whippos role swapped. You just said it, but yeah. To me, it's Hylissang. Niski is like the silent-ish carry that's doing really well. He's doing his job really well.
Yeah.
And then Adam has had a few great games.
It's not. I don't think it's Adam.
But Adam's not up there yet because I feel like Adam's still kind of growing into the LEC. Like if you just look at his matches,
his numbers aren't always incredible.
His Olaf, his Gwen, his Renekton, you know, they were all fantastic. You know, actually, Adam is playing pretty good. Adam's playing pretty. No, it's not.
It's okay. Well, it's not Adam. I don't. I can't be. I don't think it's Blippo. Blippo's been good though. He's been bought every time.
Yeah, Adam. I think this is a great debut for Adam.
For sure. This is just about in the nitty gritty of comparing him to his teammates. In the context of the league, Adam's had a fantastic debut split.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you're coming into Fnatic and replacing, you know, Whippo. I think he's been playing fantastic. So I won't give it to Adam just yet. I have to say, I would love to see more of Adam. I think the Olaf, the Renekton, the Nocturne, and the Gwen has all looked great. I don't think he's the real driving force behind what's giving Fnatic these leads in terms of like whether it's shot calling or getting the team. I think it's Hylissang. I think Hylissang he's engaging on Braum. He's 2v1.
Actually, yeah, that Hylissang where he caught the Ezreal E. Yeah, it has to be Hylissang.
I think it's Hylissang.
It has to be Hylissang. He played Pyke.
I think to me it's between Upset and Hylissang. I mean, their bot lane is their best players in my eyes. Their strongest lane is
individually.
Their bot lane.
For sure. I think
Adam's getting really good.
Bot lane,
so I'm keeping my eye on Adam for this. This is the mid split. I'm looking at Adam towards the end of the split because if he keeps ramping it up like this, it's great. You know, against G2, the Renekton game was amazing. So love to see more. But for me, Hylissang. There it is. I've said it.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. I think Upset's doing fantastic. I think he's limited a little bit by the role, but even then, he's gotten to play Kalista. It's similar to Hans Sama, where like when a player gets to play Kalista, you get to see their impact immediately in the game, which I think always makes it easier to talk about them as opposed to the more chill AD carries.
I think we're pretty widespread. So if we have Hylissang, that means we have 4 supports. Treats, Mickey, Kaiser, Hylissang. We have 2 mid laners. Leader,
Treats is in the jungle though. You're not even trying to roast him.
Yeah. I still. Yeah, sure.
So we got 2.
Okay.
We got 2 top laners. We got 2 mid laners. We got 2. We don't even know. We have 1 jungler in Treats, and we have 4 supports.
Okay, so we got 2 teams left. And now that I've taken you in my BMW to the offices in London, bruv, I want to show you my pet rabbit.
So weird.
His name is.
God,
we call him.
No, he has a name. He has a name. The rabbit has a name.
The rabbit has a name.
Fidget. Thank you, Phil.
Fidget. God. My rabbit.
Phone
Fidget.
a friend, by the way, with Phil. If anyone needs a friend for like who wants to be a millionaire or whatever, Phil is your guy right now. This man is clutch.
Fidget. Okay, Misfits.
He's got a little eye patch. Sometimes he poops on the floor out of nowhere after being a very good bunny for 6 months.
Context.
All right, Misfits. I think this one's pretty easy.
I think it's top or jungle.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, top jungle. I really love Herit. Herit's a very, very good player.
I think it's top or jungle.
I think it's Razork.
I think it's Herit.
It has to be Razork. That in the games where Misfits are like struggling at all, Razork is always doing things.
And where are they playing towards?
Oh, Caedrel.
And then who's getting the top? Who's getting all the like resources?
The man has played so much Gwen.
Actually, Gwen Viego. He is a new champ, a little bit of an abuser.
Renekton is so good.
Okay, so Razork's early games have been great, but he's been playing more towards top side, playing through mid to top or playing through top to mid. He has insane kill participation stats in terms of like getting his team ahead. Okay, I'll agree with you because I'm the guy that likes to give credit to the people who set them up rather than people who like they're the ones who blow the balloon, and then the other guy comes in and pops it, right? They're the ones that pop off. That's my metaphor I'm going to use. So Razork is the balloon blower.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to go with Razork.
I think we're revealing to the world that neither of us actually have any talent. It's a giant sham. Neither of us are that clever.
Yeah, we're both stupid.
Oh, so dumb.
No, I'm going to say, I'll agree with you. I'll say Razork. Because Hirit, they're playing towards Hirit. He's getting funneled a lot of resources. I think he's been doing great with the resources he's been given. But Razork is the... Razork.
Hirit... I could honestly do a whole episode where we talk about Hirit. I think Hirit is very good. I think Hirit was the shining light last season. Yeah, but I do think in the and if we could give, he's our secondary one, just like Gen X was a secondary on Treats or any of the other ones where we couldn't really decide. Because Hirit is incredible. Hirit is one of the best top laners in the league right now. And I am not confident enough in my knowledge of top lane to make a top lane list right now, but he is top 5. I'm almost 100% sure.
Yeah, I wish we could give more context on these things, but we're just quick hitting it. I would agree with Razork. I think Hirit is probably one of the best top laners in the league right now, but I'm not sure if that's because of how they're playing the game to facilitate that, or if it's because of the new champions, the meta, whether he's gotten better as a player.
Hirit,
or he was their best player in spring, right?
He was their best player in spring. The TP's bot lane, the crazy Renekton kills and outplays. Hirit is an incredible player. Mm-hmm. There is no doubt in my mind that yes, some of what Hirit is doing is the product of the meta, and some of it is that he's getting to play really powerful champions. But Hirit is really great. I don't want to take away from him in that capacity. I just wanted to put that in context when thinking about what Razork is doing as well. And we put Razork. He's a number 2 jungler. Can we really not put him MVP?
Put Razork. I
think it's Razork.
Yeah, Razork. I agree with Razork. So now I've driven you in my BMW to the London offices, bruv, and I've shown you my bunny rabbit.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Fidget.
Now I'm going to take you over to my PC. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm playing some TBC. World of Warcraft.
Who?
You know what class I chose?
I bet I do.
Yeah.
You want
level 70 Rogue.
Whew.
Rogue. There's the metaphor.
Yeah. By the way, if you play Rogue in
backstab,
PvP, I hate you.
Ambush. Cheap shot.
I got for the few years that I got so completely addicted to WoW that I could never play again. Rogues just absolutely blasted me. Stop.
Blind.
Stop. I don't. Please. Never again. Never want to think about trying to fight a rogue again.
By the one who I love most. That was a song about the rogue.
That was a song about rogues. Yeah, there was rogue involved.
Was it? Wait, backstab by the one who I love most. Was that a rogue reference to a rogue in WoW to reference rogue in League? No, it wasn't. It was a song about Reckless. So
no, but we did have. I don't remember if the bars made it into one of the rap battles. We had a lot of WoW rogue references.
Kidney shot by the one who I love
most. we had all the
blind dead. How am I supposed to cope? Stop. Oh, this crippling poison. I can't move.
Oh my God!
Sorry, that was terrible. Sorry to your ears.
Rogue. You can eviscerate my heart. We can do a
eviscerate.
I don't know if the Riot Games will appreciate that crossover, but
all right, Rogue. Inspired.
It's inspired.
Yeah,
it's inspired. He's the best jungler in the league. His numbers are disgusting. His performances are incredible. He plays new stuff like the Fiddlesticks. He's innovative. He is incredible. And
even everyone. And if you don't value our opinion, everyone already says that Inspire is like the best jungler in the league by far.
Watch the games and you can form your own opinion. Yeah. But if you have a different opinion, you don't think Inspire is like good, let us know, because I would be curious. If you actually have good arguments, don't just be like, I think Inspired sucks. Like, if you have good arguments and good clips to make your argument, I would love to hear them, because so far every single human being I have talked to and every clip I have looked at is just like, damn. Inspired.
There's a lot of evidence to back it up. Oh my God, I just turned the thing up. There's a lot of evidence to back it up. And also, if you watched your games yourself, he's so efficient. He's so creative. I think there was this one game where he was playing against the Diana jungle, and he knew Diana would start Raptors, go to Krugs, and then go to Red. What did he do? He did Red, ran around, jumped over the Drake pit, and forced him off the their red buff, her own red buff. So there's innovation. He's also shows in the champions with the Fiddlesticks. I think he clutched the game out against Misfits. He's always consistent. He's really consistent definition of the league. Best jungler in the league. Yeah. Inspired.
So in general, outside of Larson, who's
Hans is close.
Hans is up
Trimby's
there.
Close.
Oda Wamne has been doing good, and that's the thing. That's the player I want to mention. That's the player I want to mention right now is Trimby, because I think people have acknowledged that Odo is good. Shout out to Odo. It doesn't always show in the MVP votes, but I think people respect Odo a lot as the top laner. Hans Sama clearly fighting for number 180 carry in the league.
Do you want to know a fun stat about Hans Sama?
Sure.
I'm not going to give you context. I'm going to just throw it out there. His average gold difference to the enemy AD carry at 15 minutes, 1.1k gold on average.
Yeah,
in 9 games.
That's the Callista gap right there, baby.
That's nuts.
And obviously he's also playing very well.
So you can probably form the context on your own.
Trimby. I need to talk about Trimby just a little bit, because yes, Rogue is still the Inspired team, and it is a team full of great players, which also helps set up Inspired to look better. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely easier to play the game when your team is excellent as laners.
The growth of Trimby is amazing.
The growth of Trimby is incredible. Mechanically, he is one of the best supports in our league, easily, if not the best in a lot of these circumstances. Every single little mechanical trick that people talk about that people only get in some stage games, he hits. He Nautilus hooks every Alistar out of their combo. He stuns every Alistar.
He hooks every Leona out of their E to stop
Leona
the stun.
out of the E,
he
stuns
every Alistar.
Stuns every Alistar with the Rel. His Galio game.
His Blitzcrank against G2.
His Galio game was so incredibly clean. He played the team fights flawlessly. He saved his taunts for the right time. Again, we were talking about this on cast. The only time Humanoid killed anyone was the only time Trimby was not in the area. You know what I mean? And that's natural. Galio absolutely just makes Akali's life miserable. But every other time we've seen that kind of counter, it's been like, it's been all right. It's been solid. Even in some games, it's been pretty good. But
can we give the award to two people? I really think Trimby deserves it.
We can't. I can't. Trimby deserves more love. Trimby deserves a bigger shout out. I feel like we talk about Mikyx Hylissang first, and they have that history and they have that pedigree, and I think they deserve that attention. I think Kaiser's the next guy that we always look at after that. Limit had some showings last season. He was one, but I think Trimby needs to be in that top 3 discussion.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at supports.
100%.
I think it's him and Kaiser. Let's call it like the EU Support Hall of Fame right now. There's probably a lot of names in there, but Mikyx and Hylissang are in there, right? No doubt in my mind. The name that I would say is the person trying to fight to get in there right now is Trimby. He's
he's in there, I think.
I think he needs a little bit more time for sure.
Okay, yeah, in terms of experience and name
and history, sure. Because Kaiser's won a split now, which is obviously a big deal.
But in terms of performance, he's
incredible,
easily up there,
incredible.
But we're gonna give it to Inspired, I guess then. But massive shout out to Trimby, 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. Mechanical plays, team fights, lane phase, everything is just beautiful to watch. Hans obviously right next to him, playing just as good. Their bot lane is absolutely stacked. Their jungler stacked. Larsen's been having a quiet split. Odoamne's been doing. He's had some good games. Decent. He's been playing decent games. He's been doing his job. The Cannon performances especially stick out of my mind.
The Nocturne performance against Mad, it was unplayable for him. That said, we now need to talk about MVP for the league.
That was unplayable. Yeah,
unplayable. Oh my god. Booty blasted that entire game.
Booty blasted.
He got absolutely destroyed, dude.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the MVP, probably the mid-season MVP for the whole league.
It's not going to surprise people. It's Inspired. If you say anything else, you're gonna have to come in with a strong argument. I think it has to be. It's Inspired. It's Rogue are number 1 right now, and obviously MVP is the player who, without them, their team would look the most different, most valuable player, not just the best player. But to me, I think Inspired is in the discussion for one of the best players in the league right now, and it feels to me if he's the MVP on Rogue, who look like the best team right now, then he should be the MVP of the league. That's my read. I don't know what you're feeling.
Yeah, I think close candidates, if you're looking at... The thing is, if you look at the MVP of the league, I'm looking at the same people on the team, right? I know we've just done MVPs of each team, but I think that Rogue has MVP players in 3 different roles.
That's the struggle.
So Hans and Trimby are definitely up there, but if we're doing MVP of each team as the mid-season MVP, I would agree it's Inspired, but then Hylissang's up there, Kaiser's up there, I think as well, Razork's definitely up there. But in terms of Rogue, I think if Inspired is the MVP, which I agree, mid-season MVP, probably Inspired. I think Trimby and Hans are right behind him. I think Hylissang, Kaiser and Razork are right behind him as well.
Yeah, and some things about midseason, and again, there's no trophy here, and we'll talk about who we believe is the full season MVP at the end of the year when we get to do awards and voting. But the problem, and one of the beautiful things, the best and worst things about any kind of MVP discussion is always the subjectivity that comes with defining what an MVP is for you. And the league has not defined it for one reason or another. I like it because it leaves more room for discussion, but it also leaves more room for frustration because I think there can only be one MVP on a team.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I think if you're voting for MVP and you put 2 Rogue players on there, I think that's there's one most valuable player on Rogue, and it's not if that guy doesn't win, then the next guy in line gets up and takes the spy. That feels weird to me, but that's my personal preference.
No, I think it's an opinion-based award, especially mid-season, because it's not an actual award. I think I agree. Yeah, Inspired. I think best performing player. In the jungle especially, probably one of the best players in the league, yeah, 100%. Efficiency in the way he jungles, the way he sees opportunities, the amount of time he doesn't waste around objectives. He's always ahead, and especially just from my experience, we'll just throw it out there. Last year, he was by far one of the hardest junglers to play against, alongside Selfmade and Jankos in that era. He's the one that sticks out to me. I think he's probably one of the biggest driving forces behind how Rogue get their wins, along with the bot lane. Larsen a little bit as well, last split for sure. And Odoamne has his moments when the team finally decides to play towards top lane, but they're always going to play towards bot lane if you watch their games. Yeah, 100% agree.
So to recap, overall, Inspired the winner, also the winner for Rogue. For SK, we gave it to Treats, Gen X close second, Schalke was Broken Blade, no contest, Astralis, White Knight, bam, easy, XL, Nuke Duck, Vitality, Leader. That one was hotly debated, but we ended on Leader. G2 Mikyx, Mad Lion Kaiser. Humanoid also on the list, but not quite able to get there. Fnatic was Hylissang, upset right next to him. There was a big debate there, but Hylissang ultimately winning out. Misfits going to Razork, and again, last but not least, Rogue Inspired.
We have no AD carries.
We have no AD carries. Wow. We should think more about that. Maybe we should, you know what, let's talk to Upset. We'll just call Upset soon and talk to Upset about AD carries. He's a good AD carry. He almost made this list. Maybe bring another AD carry on. Spontaneous episode planning. Phil loves when I do this and we announce and commit things to the public without being sure that they can happen.
Phone out.
No. Just call him on the spot. Hey, why do AD carries suck? No, because I would love to know. Like, maybe we're not looking at the right metrics. It's entirely possible that I have a blind spot here, but to me, it feels like...
I think the reason is because AD carry is full. I would say, let's take the meta as an example, okay?
Yeah.
So you think of MSI, you think of Kai'Sa, you think, Gala having pop-up performances as well.
Sure.
Ghost even got a pentakill, I think it was. Kai'Sa got nerfed a lot. Now you look at the AD carry pool. Varus, poke Varus. Can you really make insanely good plays or carry your team on poke Varus? Well, you can,
sure.
With DPM and stuff like this.
I think the thing is they just don't look good. Like when you win a fight as poke Varus, it is landing 2 Qs. That's you winning a fight. Landing 1 is a good fight. Landing 2 is, wow, an MVP performance because that's where that champion's damage comes from. It's just not pretty. It's not flashy.
Yeah, and flashy is one way to look at it 100%, but also just looking at the lane phase of the champions themselves. Varus, the reason Varus is so strong, he just automatically wins every lane in a sense. You out-trade people with the right support, and that's the reason it was such higher priority, because not only does it have poke for neutral objectives, it also is really strong in lane. So you can attribute the champion to that. Yes, you can apply that to top lane with Gwen and Viego as well, but just in the context of AD carry, Varus 100% up there. Kai'Sa has been nerfed a lot, so it's hard to actually have that kind of impact.
A lot of the flashier... Kalista is really... And the reason is like Hansama and Upset were both names that we were considering as the 2 players who have been busting out the Kalista all the time. And Kalista is one of the few exceptions, I think, to the current AD carry pool where it's easy to get, let's say, an MVP performance because you are set up to win early, and then when you do it, you have to keep winning with that champion. And don't get me wrong, when you have a lead with Kalista, she's very, very powerful, but it's a very clear way to see how strong a player is.
But also, you have to look at the context of the Kalista as well. If your team's good around playing around the Kalista, then also you get ahead. But we've seen Kalistas that fall behind. We have Neon who fell behind on the Kalista. Patrick didn't have that great of a game. But then you look at Karzi, Hands, and Upset who have these insane Kalista performances. It's always easy to attribute like, wow, the Kalista actually has impact. You can give notoriety and MVP to the AD carry, and obviously they'll have high DPM numbers and all these crazy stats to actually attribute that in terms of the context. So I think AD carry will definitely start to rise as the season progresses, because I think things like Aphelios are now really strong alongside Thresh. Jinx is also rising up. Ezreal as well was slightly rising, will fall off a little bit more as well. But then Tristana and Kalista, the only real AD carries you can look at as these playmaking AD carries, get your team ahead to merit an MVP performance. But whereas other roles, support, jungle and mid, much more impact. AD carries, basically the reason this whole discussion is AD carries have the lowest impact in the game, I think. They're just kind of like reliability bots where they'll try to be proactive. Unless they're on things like Tristana, Kai'Sa, Kalista.
Yeah.
They're more of like a stability champion. And for sure, if you're playing Jinx, don't flash in and try to look at these crazy plays. But if you're playing Tristana, Kalista, yes, do that. But we're only really seeing that from Kalista these days.
And I think it's just, they are always going to be, for the most part, outside of the Kalista. Yeah, as you said, they're the stability. They're the source of reliable, consistent damage. They are... I think probably ideally for most of these champions, the least source of variance in a game.
I think it's a really long discussion, which I would love
we
to
don't
have
have
one
time.
Day. I think that basically, if you're not playing Kai'Sa, Kalista, Tristana, it's hard to merit the fact
if you play a champion that can make plays and you make a lot of plays aggressively and early, back in like the 2019 meta, it was easier to talk about AD carries as MVPs because it was just so flashy and it was so constant fighting.
And Karzi stands out to my mind, Hands stands out in my mind. People are trying to do these things, but
another discussion.
We didn't get an AD carry. But the players on their team are just too good.
And you can let us know if you think we robbed someone. Let us know your thoughts as well on AD carries and why maybe you think that they're worth more or less than we do in the current meta and in the current scheme of competitive League of Legends. But that's going to be it for us. Congrats to Inspired for winning our totally made up mid-season MVP award. We'll see if you can keep it up in the second half. But for now, the team currently contesting Rogue in first place is none other than Misfits. And we have a chance to sit down with their head coach, Candyfloss. Let's do it. Let's do it. It is now my distinct pleasure to welcome Candyfloss live and in person from Misfits, behind the scenes, the man, the myth, the legend, the potential architect, the puppet master of this incredible Misfits start. I don't know how much credit to give you, so I'm just going to give it all to you, and then if you want to pass it to anyone else, you can. It's literally all this man. He's done everything solo. The players that you see playing on stage, not as important. It's Candyfloss. He's the guy that you need to be talking about. Anyway, sorry.
He always does these dramatic openings where he's like, I've got Caedrel next week, the Lee Sin player, top 50 challenger. And then he proceeds to just flame me the whole day.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to flame you because, again, I think what I would love to know is introduce yourself, man. First off, welcome to the show. Congrats on Misfits' incredible start so far. And tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your history, and kind of what you do on Misfits.
So I just recently joined Misfits in November, and I was the assistant coach in spring, and I recently got the promotion to head coach for summer. So I'm the head coach, obviously, of Misfits, and I've been in the League of Legends scene coaching for a while now, I think 3 years. Actually, my first coaching position was coaching Caedrel.
Yeah, it was.
In Ninjas in Pajamas when I was still at university. And I'm really happy with how we're doing at Misfits, and we want to keep it up.
Yeah, I remember the first team that I role swapped from jungle. I was from mid to jungle, and I played in a few teams. And then we went to this EU Masters tournament, and Candy was the coach, and he was like coaching us really well. And I was surprised because you were a player for a while, weren't you? You were a jungler. You played on some not so big names, but like in the UK scene. And then you transitioned into a coaching role because you had like your degree going on, didn't you? Mm-hmm. And you're like part-time, but you finished your degree now, haven't you?
Yeah, I was playing only solo queue, and then I realized you can actually win a lot of money playing like LAN events, especially at the time there was UK LAN events. I went to one with Caedrel. I said like, hey, there's a lot of money. I think it was like £10,000, and well, we should win this money because it's really easy, and that's how I got into playing a bit whilst I was still at university.
Yeah.
And
what was it you were studying?
I did business and economics for my undergraduate, mm-hmm. and I did management for my master's degree.
Yeah. It's rare that anyone in esports finishes a degree and also plays League of Legends. I feel like those two things. It's also just rare that anyone finishes a degree in esports. I feel like I'm always surprised, and I'm like, you have a college education? Who, like, do you know what industry you're in? Who are you?
Yeah,
overachiever.
Especially like when most players kind of start at like 17, 18. They kind of veer off that path from
very rapidly
studying and stuff. But you've coached Ninjas in Pajamas, Gamers Origin, Mouse, and then straight to Misfits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a lot of teams you've been coaching over the last 3 years, and Mouse. Really successful run in the Prime League. EU Masters wasn't as successful, right?
Yeah, well, we had a roster that we wanted to get first place with. We had leader, and now we had the Astralis bot lane, Jessica and Promiscue. We had some really great players on that team. The goal was to get first place in EU Masters. We came up against Rogue, who was an amazing team at the time, so we fell short. I think that's one thing that I always wanted to do was win EU Masters, and I went to the event I think 5 times and never won it. So one thing.
I mean, close for sure, but I mean, consolation prize. You're now the head coach of an LEC team, so I would say pretty good. Not an EU Masters trophy, but yeah. I would hope that that's going pretty well, and it seems to be.
That's a pretty quick transition, though, from like going from EU Masters to winning in the kind of national leagues, and then straight into the LEC. You said you were the assistant coach for Misfits, and Misfits' last split came like 7th or 8th, tied around there. They didn't make playoffs. What was the difference coming into summer? Because it's the same roster, just you're now the only person who's kind of changed into the head coach role. Did you change the dynamics of the team, the style? Was there more of like the you factor in draft in the way the team played the game?
I think that we were on an upwards trend towards the end of spring. So we had like a good foundation to work with because we were 3-8, and then I started to take a bigger role in spring already. And then it started to turn around quite well. And we brought in also a new assistant coach, Sani, who's been a really big help to me. He's always there to support me with everything that I need. And I think the main difference is that we are closer as a team outside the game. And then this has allowed me to do my job better because I can have those difficult conversations with the players, and we can just argue about, you've hinted here, and then we reach the conclusions, obviously in a more healthy manner. But yeah, we can have those difficult conversations, and then at the end of the day, we know we're all friends and we're all working towards the common goal that we want to make playoffs first, and then try to make it to Worlds, which is going to be difficult. But I think this has been a really big help for us. And then as well, at the beginning of the split, I think we had a really good read on the meta. We picked up some wins with the OP champions that people were not playing yet. So that's been some of the big changes.
Got to take every shot you can get. Definitely. And those champions, we've talked about them a lot on Dest.
Yeah. Some of them are like actually ludicrously broken. And for you so far, I mean, it's been a pretty good run, right? It hasn't been perfect. The G2 game, obviously, skin of your teeth. I think that you won that game.
that was nuts.
We take those. Yeah, let's start with the G2 game. I have more follow-up questions, but I'm actually curious what that experience was like from you. We had an interview with Vito and Ashley where they're talking a little bit about what those final moments are like. But as someone who has to sit there and cannot participate in that moment, but just has to watch your team and like cross your fingers and pray, what is that experience like backstage when you go from like probably pretty convinced that the game is over and you're just watching a G2 victory lap to like, holy shit, we just won the game?
Yeah, so we're sitting in the coach's room and we have a 5-minute delay. They got Mountain Soul, they got 12k gold lead to inhibs, and I'm like, shit, we lost this 0-2 week. What am I gonna say to the guys at the end to like bring them up?
Yeah.
And then they come into the room and they say, we won. I'm like, no, you didn't. You didn't win. And they're like, we won. I was like, no, it's not funny, guys.
Oh,
and then,
no.
Then we had to sit down and watch it because we didn't believe that they'd won. But yeah, it was amazing feeling, obviously. But the bad part was that we won not because of us playing good, but because they made the mistake. We took the opportunity and we pounced on it, but we know that we have a lot of things we can still improve.
Yeah, what is the focus like in the coming weeks? Obviously, a really solid first round rather than being tied with Rogue in first place right now. But are there clear things right now that you think like, is there a clear path forward for Misfits when it comes to improvement, even though you are currently standing at the top of the table?
Yeah, you could see that against some of the top teams we've had tough games against Mad, the Rogue one as well. I think that was our game, but we just weren't disciplined enough. We made some silly mistakes in the early game, which cost us. And the good thing is that these things are easily fixable. We've identified what the problems are, and we have like a clear path moving forwards of how we want to play, how we want to improve together as a team.
Yeah, because last split you guys had 8 wins. Now you have 7 already at the halfway point. So making playoffs is probably on the cards. I presume like that's probably likely to happen at this point.
Yeah, I hope
I don't want to jinx it for you because in my experience,
you're not qualified.
I'm not qualified.
You're
to
definitely
say
not.
that.
You're not qualified.
Yeah, in my experience,
Just
sometimes you just can't cross the line. It's like right in front of you, but you just fall over. But I presume that the notion in the team and the expectations on the team and the way that you guys see yourselves as a team is that you are a top team. Is that kind of the vibe you get? Is it from the players?
Yeah, I think we are one of the top teams, but what I'm saying to my players at the moment, they need to stay humble because we are first place, but in reality, we haven't achieved anything as a team. It's only halfway through the split. Last spring, we were 7th place, so we still need to prove it. And 7 wins doesn't really mean anything until we're at least secured for the playoffs. I think like the magic number to get the playoffs is usually 9 wins, but we need to get 10 wins, secure the playoffs, and then we'll start thinking about the next step.
Yeah, I can tell you from my experience, 9 wins is definitely the magic number. 8 was the one that was my favorite number.
Oh my god, it always comes. See, you get mad at us when we roast you about not making playoffs, but you can't help yourself. You have to bring it up too.
Yeah, 8 is just the magic. 9 is the magic number. 8 is the number that's going to curse me forever, I think.
Yeah.
But just a small fun fact from knowing you for a while. Ever since what season was it that you've been challenger in solo queue? Maybe people might not know this as a coach, but you were actually like an ex-pro. You were really high in the solo queue ladder, so you have a lot of game knowledge in terms of being a player. Mm-hmm. You were a challenger for like 6 seasons in a row, non-stop, or 7 was it?
6 seasons.
6 seasons in a row, which I think is really impressive.
At university as well.
At university,
yeah,
while doing the degree, yeah. And there's only like a couple of players who have that. There's like Kirei and Reckless, I think, who have it as well.
Caedrel barely made challenger with 3 full days of streaming a week. That's like 30 hours, 40 hours of games.
Yeah, no, that wasn't pretty, but I'm on my climb now.
I know you are, actually. I'm just trying to give you crap, but you did good. No, that's really cool. And that's an interesting angle that I think, some coaches are going to have that former pro player experience. Some coaches aren't. How do you think that this has kind of affected the way that you coach? Does it help the way you approach conversations? Is it just that casual tone of, hey, you inted here? You know what I mean? Or is there like more that you feel like you can bring as more of a game expert than, let's say, like some of the head coaches who are more focused on, let's say, traditional sports structure rather than League of Legends and the specific things that go with League of Legends?
Yeah, I think it's obviously been a big help, because if you spend, I don't know, like tens of thousands of hours playing League, you're obviously going to know more than other people who didn't play at a high level. And just having that player's perspective, being able to relate to them more, has been a big help with the coaching. And that's what I was primarily focused on when I started coaching. And I think I'm learning more about how to be a coach recently, not just to do with the game knowledge. So I think I had a really good foundation because of being a player. Now I'm expanding my skills outside of the game knowledge, dealing with the players, just like a traditional coach would.
And speaking of traditional coaches in general, I know there's this thing on your Twitter and stuff like this, or just in general in the social media presence, you like Coach Cartwright and stuff like this. Is that to do with basketball and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Is there some kind of like things you take from there or mindsets you implement into your own coaching?
Well, in basketball, one of the inspirations to me is a coach called Nick Nurse. He's the coach of the Toronto Raptors. And something that's inspiring to me about him is that he coached in the lower leagues for 20, 30 years. And he just kept going and never gave up. And eventually he became head coach in the NBA and won championship in his first year. And as well, he's not afraid to think outside the box. He's really innovative. And I think a lot of teams are sticking to the meta, like exclusively. So I really appreciate that quality of innovation, creativity.
Nice.
Dang. I mean, I like it. And obviously you have some more innovative or unique players on your team, right? Like here, it's certainly got a lot of opportunities at the Gwen. I won't call that innovation. That's just kind of power. But Razork was one of the first big adapters of things like the Fiddlesticks. Obviously has always loved the Echo, whether it's been super great in meta or not. So I don't want you to give away, I mean, I do want you to give away picks, but I know that you shouldn't. But like, is that something that we can expect more of from Misfits moving in? Obviously, 11-13 is a new patch. At some point, we're going to be on 14, whatever the hell playoffs is going to be on. I have no idea. Is that something that you said you value it? Is that something you really push with your players? Is like find those niche picks, find those unique angles that other people aren't going to think of?
Yeah, I'm always trying to think of new picks, and right now we have something spicy cooking up. Might be
That's what I like to hear.
Might be used this week, maybe next week. We'll see. But especially when you go into the best of fives, assuming we make it there, you need to be able to bring out some crazy strategies, because you go in first game and then you play some composition that they've never seen before, you win with it, then they need to ban it, then you're just at a huge advantage for the rest of the series. So yeah, we are thinking of some new picks, and it's possible that they will be played soon.
Yeah, and I think that teams kind of get comfortable sometimes, you know, when they're on a meta state and they're winning games, they're like, okay, well, the meta just suits us really well. We don't really need to change anything. We're just going to stick to what we do. And then as the patches come on, we'll change things. But I think the idea of exploring things and being creative while also winning and staying humble is really important, because if you look at like G2, in their success in international events, you know, flexing everything, being able to play everything.
Well,
innovating champions.
For sure, right? And I think that like it's a lot. You kind of listed off like 5 things back to back very casually. Hey, being able to win while also innovating, while also keeping up. Like it's a lot of juggling. Yes, all of those things are good. And I think the fact that League of Legends is a game that, unlike basketball or whatever, right, is literally the meta is it's forced evolution every 2 weeks by patch note, right? So to then try to add more on top of that, to try to innovate more past just what the game essentially dictates for you, or to find what's best on those patches, I think is like impressive, and also just sounds incredibly difficult. That said, potentially a team that you might want to use some of that against is Rogue, who you'll be playing this week.
Rematch.
The rematch. First game in the second round robin. Like, how are you feeling about this one right now? Because you said that was your last time you guys played. That was your game. You felt like you guys kind of threw that one away. So what are your thoughts heading into the rematch this time around?
Well, in spring we got smashed by them. So the game in summer was a good start, and yeah, as I said, we had the game. We made a mistake. I think we're the underdogs going in still, because Rogue is, for me, the best team by far right now in LEC. And it's going to be a challenge, and we just need to rise to that challenge. Maybe think of some of those spicy strategies to play against them, take them off guard. And I think we're in a good position as a team right now. We're comfortable. And we just need to keep pushing ourselves to get better.
You think Rogue is by far and above the best team in the league right now? Is that from scrims on stage, just the way they play the game is like... Because when people watch the game as a viewer, there's like these memes where it's just boring because they play just so well that in the early game and they just get such big leads. Sometimes they throw it, but it just looks like no matter what, Rogue's early game is just their strongest point.
Yeah, I think right now they're the best team. Obviously that can change. It's only halfway through. I see them as someone that we're looking up to still, even though we're equal in standings. We can learn a lot from them, and it's always when we play against them in scrims and in the official games, we're learning a lot. I think that Inspired is really incredible player, and then they have just great carry players to complement him, and that's making things easier for them. Mm-hmm. But right now, the other top teams, I think they're a bit behind. G2 obviously are struggling with their consistency, and then Mad, they could be the best team again, but I think they've had a really tricky time with coming back from MSI, then having the 28 days of quarantine. Yeah. So I can't fault them for not being at the top of the standings. And at the end of the day, it's just the regular season. We know that when it gets into the playoffs, everyone's going to kick it up a gear. Mm-hmm. So lots of things can change. But for now, Rogue is the best team for me.
Yeah, and I think we can see it, and I think it's something that we've talked about before and ready to see how that evolves. But regardless of all the praise that you've laid on them, good luck in your match versus Rogue this week. You guys are also matching up against Straws on Saturday.
I think maybe.
Stop saying the schedule keeps changing. The schedule's getting changed to adjust for this new players being the studio thing, which is obviously very exciting. So we'll see what we're casting. Last time we were a little too eager and ended up not casting the games that we were talking about. But thank you so much for joining us, Candyfloss, and good luck on the week, man.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks again to Candyfloss. Excited to see what Misfits can do this weekend. I'm going to speak quickly now because...
I'm going to rap code. Let's go.
We're just... I'm going to be honest, we went a little bit too long on every single segment today. So with the penalty being loomed over my head, I'm like at a certain point, they can tune into your stream if they want to watch it. You know what I mean? Ooh. At a certain point where we're just not making good content if we can't structure it. That's what I'll say. I know a lot of people are a fan of the 2-hour podcast, but there's a reason we structure it and try to keep it shorter. It's because we get worse the longer we go. Hopefully you enjoy the podcast today. Week 5 is coming up. Misfits is noted are playing Rogue. They're also playing Astralis, but Rogue versus Misfits has a hype game. Caedrel, pick one game. I'm going to ask you, actually screw it. I'm not going to involve you at all because if I give you time, you're going to talk more.
What the hell?
Nope.
G2 Rogue.
G2 Rogue. 1 sentence summary. What's going to happen?
Poggers.
That's all we need. All right. Next most exciting game. Fnatic.
Rogue Misfits.
Rogue Misfits. Backstabbed.
By the one kidney shot Rogue.
Kidney shot the rabbit.
First place.
Yeah. That rabbit. So it's just going to be like, just like quick neck stab. Just like, sorry, Candyfloss. You were a great interview. Candid. Vitality versus Fnatic. Last game I'm super hyped for. What do you think? 1 sentence.
I'm so hyped for this game, Drakos. I think there's a lot to talk about, and I'd love to do it now. You got self-made versus Quippo.
No, I'm super excited. It's going to be a banger. Week 5 is coming up. Apologies for the rushed finish to the episode. We're incredibly excited about Week 5. We'll be sure to spend a little bit more time talking about what happens in the next episode. For now, this has been Season 8, Episode 5, Misfits Managed. We'll be back next week with Episode 6. I've been Drakos. That's Caedrel. We'll see you guys next week. Also this Friday.
See ya.
Bye.